Good morning. Hi there if you're watching the replay, and good morning if you're watching live. I'm Maddie of Maddie Harvey Designs. I'm a knitwear designer and knitting teacher based in Edinburgh, where I produce knitting patterns and knitting kits, and I run online events and workshops trying to help knitters develop their creativity and confidence. And this is my weekly Thursday live video that I call Knits and Cake for Breakfast. And the idea behind these videos is that before coronavirus and lockdowns and things, I was hosting a weekly in-person knit night. Seems like a completely alien concept now, but hopefully soon we'll be able to get back to that. But I used to bake every week for the knit night, and then on a Thursday morning after I dropped my kids at school, I would eat some of the cake, the leftover cake for my breakfast. So I would share some of that, what I've been baking this week, what I've been working on, and at the end of the video I'll share some tips and tricks or a little tutorial. This week I'm going to show you how to wear a certain style of shawl, which is something people requested last week, and if you're watching this in the replay, I'll put the timestamp in the subtitles here now so you know where to go to watch that. So this week I haven't really been doing any baking. My kids have been doing a lot of baking, so I've been doing a lot of washing up. I really need to get them onto that as well. It's lovely to have them baking, but yeah, the tidying up is not so great. So yesterday my 11-year-old made some scones. So he's almost at the point where he's making them pretty independently, which is really nice. So we use the recipe, Nigella Lawson's recipe from, I think it's the Domestic Goddess. But I have to admit, I am not the greatest at scones or pancakes or pastry. Those are like my three kind of baking nemesis. But luckily, my other half is good at those things. I think it might just be a matter of practice, and I've just decided that I am not good at them. And so I just won't do them, and he is good at them, but perhaps it's because he's had more practice. So anyway, he and my eldest made scones yesterday morning. They're still okay. They're not quite as fresh as they were yesterday, but what they did was they cut them out, and then they put half of them in the oven and half of them we put in the freezer. So if you've watched some of these videos before, you'll know that I've recently got into batching. So hopefully the ones that I've got in the freezer will, we can take them out and just bake them, and they'll be fresh, because scones are always better when they're fresh, aren't they? But they still taste okay. And I've got my cup of coffee, although I have to admit this is number 3 this morning. I don't know how you're doing for drinking cups of coffee, but recently I've been increasing my caffeine intake, but maybe that's not a good thing. I don't know. So I'll show you what I've been working on this week. I'm in a slightly different location today, so I'm having to reach down quite far to get stuff. But I'll share. I finished this little mini jumper. It's so cute. So this is a design I've been working on, and I've shared with you previous episodes. I've shared with you some of the swatches that I've done. So this is a mini jumper with some of the patterning on, but it's not in proportion. So although I've made the little motif a bit smaller to try and fit in with the size of the mini jumper, it's not completely to scale. So in the actual jumper, this motif won't be as big, and neither will this. And I have just cheated. I've done like the front of a sleeve, which is just a pretty sort of standard sleeve with some ribbing, and then this funnel neck. You can see it's not as tall at the back, so what I did was I did some short rows across the front to try and lift that up, but I'm not actually sure that is the best way to do it. So I might have to experiment a bit more with the neckline, and just maybe cast on like the top wee bit of the jumper again and just play about with the neck. It looks quite nice, I think, there, but because it's a mini jumper, I have no idea really what that would look like on a person. So I suppose what I could do is I could cast on the top of the jumper for myself and knit it, you know, just kind of the very top of it, just to see how it sits. Anyway, so that's kind of the next stage of that design, and I need to now do a bit of maths. I've done some big swatches of the stocking stitch, and I've done a big swatch of just the patterning, so I need to do some of the maths now to work out the stitch counts and the measurements and everything for that. So, but it was quite good fun. It was nice just to do half a sleeve as well. No sleeve island, even for a mini jumper. That was a little bit, you know, sleeve island. Nobody wants to go there. Well, it's nice to have it finished though. And the other thing I've been working on is, now I've got a lot of balls of wool attached here. I've cast on a haar shawl, which is from the knitter. This is the latest issue 160, and this is my pattern that was in here. I think it came out last week. Yeah, last week, or was it the week before? I've lost track. It's a big wrap style shawl, and this one is done in lace weight from Dye Ninja in these like lace weight mini skeins for the colour pops. And then the main colour is this lovely dark grey. So it's knitted on the bias. And I have just like had this feeling that it was calling to me to cast on another one. Because obviously the magazine have got that one. So I've been playing about with different colours from things that I stock in my online shop. And I've come up with this. I'll show you. I just made a little start on it last night. So I'm actually I'm doing this one in like 4-ply because it's what I had, and also I wanted to use some mohair in it. So what I've done is I've got quite a few balls of yarn attached here. This is my main colour. So this is the Jamieson & Smith lace weight held with a strand of mohair lace, and I'm doing it on 4.5mm needles. And then for the kind of colour pops, I'm using some of the Cambrian wool yarn that I've got in my shop for some of my shawl kits. So I've got this lovely pale grey, I've got this sort of muted turquoise, and then I've got the dark grey, which I'll show you in a minute, is going to be the other colour. And it's knitting up really nicely. The only thing I'm not sure about is whether I should have gone up to a 5mm needle. So I think what I'm going to do is knit a bit more, and then I might block this and see what it does, how it feels when it's blocked. Because the welts, when these are done, this is welts here, so you're just basically kind of folding up the fabric to make, I'll show it you that way, you can see a bit more like a little bump. So that can be fairly thick feeling. So I'm just not sure what that's going to do when it blocks, and whether it would be better on a larger needle. But that's what I'm thinking anyway. So I started that, and I also probably won't make it quite as big as my original one, because it's in 4-ply. It's going to be bigger anyway, and the shawl was already pretty big. It was like over 2 meters wide. So and I'm quite tall, so I don't think I really need a 2 meter width shawl. So if I make it to the pattern in the 4-ply, it'll definitely be bigger than that. So I think I might maybe perhaps not do quite so many repeats. So this is like the corner, and this will go on the diagonal, and then when it reaches the full width, you do knit it on the bias, so you're increasing on one side and decreasing on the other side. So I'll see what it's like when it's blocked. But yeah, it was one of these things that was just sort of sitting there in the corner, calling to me to be cast on. So I gave in to it last night and just cast it on. So I know a few other people have cast one on. I've seen some projects popping up, which is really lovely. I'm not sure if Dye Ninja has got, she did have some kits in her online shop. You could have a look if you wanted to knit it in the original colours and the original yarn, which was gorgeous to work with. It's it's a silk and baby camel mix, so it's very drapey and luxurious. Yeah, so that's what I've been working on this week. And then I was going to show you about styling shawls. So last week I posted on Instagram about different shawl shapes and what was people's favourites to wear, because I'm planning just sorting out a mystery shawl knit along which is going to come out in May, and I just wanted to find out what people's favourite shawl shapes were to knit. So one that a lot of people said parallelogram, so like a big wrap but with tapered ends. So the ends on a parallelogram are like that, so these two sides are this way and then you have the two ends. If it's like that, that's a trapezium. So I have a couple of shawls that I've designed like that, which is another shape that I quite like. So I'll show you, this is columella. So it's a parallelogram and it's so big you're not going to be able to see it very easily. I might stand back a little bit. So it's knitted from end to end. So you can see it's got slanted end and then it's straight, and then at the other end it's slanted again. So you can wear it like just like a big shawl, like you would a crescent shaped shawl or a triangular shawl. So I tend to do that and then tuck this end in and then bring this end around and shove it over my shoulder, and then sort of footer about with it, which is a good Scots word, until I get it how I want it. So, and I sometimes I've forgotten to bring one through with me, put a shawl pin in. So actually the one I've been using recently is a wooden cable needle. It's just a straight wooden cable needle that I think came free with a magazine at some point, but it makes a really good shawl pin, and I just kind of shove it through. And if I've got a jumper on underneath, I will also put the shawl pin through the jumper as well as the shawl to keep it all in place, because even when you put a shawl pin in, it's holding your shawl together so it doesn't, come off, but it's not really holding the shawl in position on your shoulders. So sometimes I do put the shawl pin through my shawl and also through my jumper, because then it stops it kind of swinging around. So that's the parallelogram. Just a minute, please. I'll show you the back, because I know some people don't like to have a triangular shawl pointing down towards their bottom. So with the parallelogram shape, you don't get that, because it's basically a long rectangle with pointed ends, and I think that also makes it a bit more interesting to knit, because you've got to increase and then you're knitting straight, rather than just casting a load of stitches and then knitting straight. And then the other way you can wear this is if you're going out and you've got a coat, like a big overcoat, and you don't want to wear a shawl on top of it, you can fold it in half and wear it more like a scarf and just wrap it around and make a double layer, and you can get it quite high up. And I haven't worn this one a lot because this is a newer sample, but my older one that I knitted, I quite often tie the two ends in a knot here and then just kind of move it about. If you've got a shawl with really long ends and you've got the flopping about, just tuck them underneath, and then you can kind of pull out one side of it, put it over your shoulder, just play about with it, and that's nice and cozy. If you're just needing something around your neck rather than over your shoulders as well, that's another way that you can wear a parallelogram shawl. So that's columella. That is a pattern that I had in Making Stories magazine now, not last year, the year before, 2019, and I have kits for that in my online shop, and the pattern is available as well. So that's one parallelogram that I've designed. Another one that I've done, which is a slightly smaller, narrower one, is Hecate, which was in Pom Pom Quarterly in 2018. So it's the same shape, so it's got a tapered edge, you increase, and then you knit straight. And this one's actually done in 2 halves, so it's got a join in the middle, and it's got these little moon motifs. So this one's not as wide, it's not as deep, but you can still wear it over your shoulders. And then because it's got the tapered ends, they're quite easy just to tuck in, you know, and then you could pin it, or you could bring this bit right round and tuck that one in, and then you just have to kind of, footer is the word, it's a Scots word, but it just means fiddle about with until you get it how you want it. Yeah, so that one works like that. Or again, you can do the folding it in half thing, which is what I quite often do if I wear these with my coat. And then you can, and then because it's double, it makes it stiffer, and it will stay up, and you get more of that kind of protection over your face. Can you just give me a minute, please? If you're going out, and you could tie it if the ends are bothering you. Yeah, and just tuck, if you don't want that end flapping about, just tuck the end in. I'm just doing a live video. Like that. So, that's a couple of different ways that you can wear a parallelogram shaped shawl, and I hope that's been helpful. I might do another couple of these videos if there's another shawl shape that you find hard to wear. I know some people were talking about an asymmetric triangle being a tricky one, so maybe I'll do that another week. But I'll let you get on with the rest of your Thursday, and I'll see you next week. Bye!